go towards the 2D felting. I find for me it's just right. I enjoy it. I get something out of it, and it works for me. So we decided to put away the 3D 3D characters. Now I'm going to go over the brown that I've just put down again with this yellow, because the brown is part of the eyeball, not part of the eyelids, and I didn't want it hugely sticking out in your face, so I'm just going over it with a tiny bit of the yellow. That's a bit too much, and that hopefully should give me the look I'm after. I have rogue hairs that don't want to play, and a black one jumped in. Now, as you can see, what's happened here is I've twizzled them round and I've ended up with yellow over black and the black trying to get into the yellow. So I've just given it a little snip with the scissors, pulled a few out. There we go. That's better. And you know, the other thing is about felting is don't be despondent if it doesn't look right the first time. You know, don't think, oh, it looks horrible and I can't get it right. Then just keep playing with it until you get it to how you want it to be. Now, the one top tip I can offer, and I've not done this today because it would mean messing about with the camera too much and would be a pain in the neck, is I tend to do both eyes at the same time. So I'll do one layer on one and then go and do one layer on the other, and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, because then when you look at the finished piece, there's a consistency with colour and with how you've done them together. So there's a consistency there. If that isn't possible for you to do that, then my advice would be to make sure that you use exactly the same colours by leaving them on a palette and leaving them out for yourself. So you've got half a chance of getting the consistency right. There we go. Okay. Now don't worry if you're going over the black. It's not a biggie. Like I said earlier, we will be doing the black again. It's just really a bit of a guide for me. There we go. Just find a... there we go. Got it. There's always one fibre that you just won't go in. No matter what you do, it won't go in. Okay. So I'll put that bit back. Now, I'm just going to go back in with brown. And again, I'm going to take a small piece and I'm going to twizzle it, as you say. Because I've got a couple. Actually, no, I'm going to do that in a minute because I've realised I've got to do something else first. So I'm just going to put that to one side. I don't have enough green on this side. So I'm just going to grab a couple of strands. That looks about right. And again, you don't have to felt every single strand that you've got. You can just cut it off. And if you look at it once you've cut it off and think, oh, there's not enough, then you can just add a bit more. But it's easier to do that than it is to try and then pick out the colour because you've put too much on. So I'm going to keep that on the side there because I'm now going to go in with my my silk white, which is really in your face. As you can see, it's in your face white, and this really, really silky, fine hair. It's quite difficult to felt. So, and you can take a little bit more than you would necessarily need on this. And this is the highlight of the eye. So this is the bit of the eye that has caught the light, and you want it to stand out like a big sore thumb, because this is going to make your 2D felt look 3D, hopefully. But it's not easy stuff to felt with. It's a bit of a pain in the bottom. And again, it just twizzles the fibres around. And you'll probably find you've got to felt over yourself quite a bit until you get that look that you're looking for. But it's easier to felt over yourself than it is to get a big chunk of it and end up with too much of it. So I'm going to go in with another bit. And that light comes all the way around here in my big chunk. And you can see this is another reason why I've put layers on, is because if I just put this silk over the top of the black, you'd never be able to cover it. It would be a nightmare. You'd be there forever trying to get that piece of white. Whereas if you've already got colour underneath, it's going to make it so much easier to felt onto. There we go. Okay, now the eye's looking a little bit, suddenly looking a bit out of shape. So, and I think it's because that black is pulling it a bit tight. So I'm just going to snip the edges of that black. And I had a friend say to me, "You always get it right first time." Well, no, I don't. You see, I haven't got it right first time. I've made a boo-boo, and this is my way of correcting the boo-boo. I've now got to pull those black fibres out, push them all the way back up there, get a piece of the yellow, and put that in here, because my eye was looking a bit like a teardrop rather than a circle. So we do make mistakes, and I think making mistakes is amazing because it teaches you things every time. And I clearly, when I did the black around the edge, I clearly did it too tight. And that's what happens if you do the black around the edge too tight. So now I've made that mistake, I won't do it again with the next one. Well, that's the hope anyway. Excuse me a minute while I get a mouth for a drink. It's better. Thirsty work, all this talking. So yeah, hopefully I won't make that mistake again. But I think that's, for me, that's what I love about doing art, is that you're always making mistakes. Doesn't matter how good you are, how many years experience you've got, you're always going to make a mistake. And the difference between being a good artist and a bad artist is not your interpretation of your art. It's not whether it looks realistic or whether it is a different style. It's about learning from your mistakes of how you want something to look and being able to change it to how you want it to look. And I think that's what makes a good artist. As well as, of course, you know, if your art makes somebody smile at the end of the day when they look at it and go, wow, then, you know, that's amazing, isn't it? And it doesn't matter if you're a contemporary artist or a realistic artist or any other artist, whatever art you choose, that's what you want, is you want people to look at it and go, wow. Personally, I like the ultra realism. But everybody's different and everybody likes to do things different ways. And that doesn't make them a good artist or a bad artist, because you can't necessarily see what it is. It's how it makes you feel inside. Okay, so hopefully I've sorted that out a little bit. We have more of a round shape. Now you can see I've got a little bit of pulling again going on. So I'm just going to get my scissors and just tweak it out a bit. There we go. Because if you use the needle to do that, you're gonna break the needle. They're so fine that you're just going to end up breaking it and it pinging back in your face or somewhere where you don't want it to be. Then you got to hunt for it in case the animals stand on it. So it's much easier to use scissors just to tease things out like that. Okay, so I think I fixed that bit for now. I'm going to just poke these fibres in. And I'm just going to go back to that vibrant white. Because it comes all the way down. There we go. And you see I use a lot more fibres with the white than I would with any other, because, and it's because it's like silk. It's really fine, and it's quite difficult to felt. There we go. But there was a lady doing a lovely little dog on Facebook yesterday, and it was white, and she was struggling with getting depth of colour and the 3D look. And when it comes to your whites and your blacks, the silks are invaluable. I've found they work really well. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, that white is quite vibrant and really does stick out. I'm just going to put another little bit in, and I'm going to bring it right up to the pupil on this side only. And it's very difficult to actually show you on camera, because nothing ever looks the same in a photograph or on a video as it does in real life. So in reality, this is quite in your face, glaring at you. You're not necessarily got that on the camera. Okay. Right, so I take a little look back. I'm just going to lift it off the thing again. I'm just going to go back to the pupil again. Just take another few fibres and redo. I'm trying not to catch the other. I've obviously got stray fibre sticking up here. Take a bit more. There you go. That's better. Sometimes you have to twizzle it around at an early stage just to get that lift. Now I've got lots of stray fibres, and rather than trying to tuck them all in, and then sometimes it's easier just to go in with the scissors, lay them flat, give them a cut, and then blow the excess off. Okay. Right. Now, I think actually I've got the pupil a little bit too much to the left, so I'm just going to move it over. And believe me, that's easier. It is easier to do than it sounds. As you can see, you can just move it over a little bit, which is better. Okay. So I also have a, where I put this grey, I have a white patch above it. So I'm going to go back in with the silk fibres and just put a little bit over the top. And it comes around and it almost meets with that other bit of white, but it doesn't quite, so. There we go. Just going to take that excess off. Just trim the excess fibres off. Okay. Right, I think we're almost there. We need a little bit of highlight on the coloured bit at the bottom there. So I'm going to go in with the first yellow I used. And I'm going to twizzle it. And I'm just going to... I don't want too much. I just want enough to stand out. There we go. And then that little bit of brown thread I rolled is going to go up here. And initially I'm just going to tuck it right underneath the black of the pupil. Okay, so I've tucked it in, if you can see. And then I'm just going to snip it. And just bring it down. Because I just want a couple of little lines. So if you get a bit like that, lay it down over the top of your pupil, shove it underneath, and as you can see, it's fixed. Put it to where you want it to be, which is actually over there, and felt it in. Now, like this bit, if you've got a bit extra sticking out, that's not a problem, that's fine. Just come along and give it a little snip and a blow, and then we can just give it a little brush with the needle. Okay. Oh. My pad's turned itself off. There we go. I'm just pulling the fibres of the pupil out a bit. I'm not sure I want another layer at the moment, but okay. So it's starting to look like an eye. Starting to get there. I'm going to go back in with the plain black. There we go. And I'm going to go around the eye again, but not in a circle this time. Now I've got more than enough black here, but I need some around here. So again, I'm going to take little bits and I'm just going to, if it will, there we go, bring it in. And when I do these outlines, as you can see the white outlines, I always do them on the small side so that when I felt over the line, and I know I've got the right dimensions for me. Again, everybody will do that differently. But I know if I felt it right onto the line, then it's correct. There we go. Lift it up a bit. And I'm going to take that black all the way down here. These little triangles are just because I've got to add some white over the top of the black. So I'll go over them, but I know they're there. And I can see in relation to other spots where they need to be, so it doesn't matter if I go over them. Your outline is just a guide, and I've had a lot of people say, oh, you're cheating if you've traced an outline, it's not 100% your work. And I'm like, well, it is. I bet you could give 10 of your friends an outline of an apple, and some of them wouldn't look anything like an apple. It is about technique and getting it, the shading and everything. Right, so I don't think there's any cheating involved. All it does mean is that my eyes are in the right place in comparison to the nose, which is in the right place in comparison to the ears. And when I've finished, it will look, hopefully, like a cat and not like a lump of fur on a piece of linen. Okay. So all of this area here is all black. And although it's a different shade of black around the edge, I'm going to put a darker grey over the top. Again, so it just gives you that depth of colour. Just going to swap needles again and go back to the thicker needle, because I'm just filling in a gap, so the thicker needle is fine. not going to go all the way up to the line at the moment. And again, if you stroke it and then poke it back down, it should help keep the holes at bay. I'll go back to my fine needle, as I want to do this edge here. Hopefully my arm isn't in your way. I really need to get a proper video device. At the moment I'm just using my phone, and because of the way I have to put it in the holder, I can't always see what you can see, so it's not always very easy to show you what I mean. I'm going right up to the line on this one because I want to show you how to do the white of the eye that is round the edge of the eyeball. So for now I'm just putting the black down. Need a bit more black. I'm going to take all this bit here is black, so I'm just going to take it up here, as then it'll be easier for me to show you. So at the moment we now have a coloured ball with a black ball in the middle around a black edge around that. And we need to bring it to life a little bit more. So snip that bit off. There we go. Okay. So I'm just going to tidy it up a little bit. Get rid of some of these floating fibres. I don't want, like this one here is a black fibre. I don't want it over the top of my eye. Cheeky little buggers they are. They pop up all over the place when you're not expecting them. Okay. Right. Now I'm going back in with the green again, because as you go along you look at it and you think, no, it needs a little bit here and a little bit there. You may see things differently from one minute to the next. I'm going to put a good bit of green here, as I just need that little extra bit of depth, and I'm just going to take it into the terracotta a bit. Okay, that's better. Snip. And I think I'm just going to put a bit around this outer edge. Where we went with the brown, I'm just going to put a bit of the green in. Now, as you can see, I'm poking it in, but I'm pulling it with the other finger, because by pulling it, I'm actually, not too hard, just really, really, really gently. I'm just making it so I've actually got most of it in my hand and just the fibres that I've poked in. There. Okay. That's better. That's given me that little bit of hint of... There we go. Oh, no. That we didn't want to come off. There, that's better. Much better, better. Okay. And you can spend hours hours on one eye. As you can see, you can always find something to change and to alter. Now I have here a really, really vibrant, what I call fox red. Probably looks a bit orangey on camera, but it's a fox red. And I've literally just taken about 2-3 hairs, and I won't even use all of that. And I just want to put a little bit in there, just to give that little bit of a kick up the arse. Probably just do with another blob of it. There we go. That's it. Okay. And don't be afraid to keep adding colour if you're not quite happy with how it's looking. Don't be afraid to go back in with another blob of colour and go, do you know what? I think I need a little bit of bright yellow there, just to give it an oomph that it needs. And do you know what? Maybe we'll just stick a little bit around this edge here, just to give it a bit of a cheeky. There we go. And you can blend it together a little bit by just combing the fibres together to fill your space. Okay. Now, I think I might just go in with a little bit more white. These really silky fibre. And I'm just going to put a bit here that goes right up to the pupil. It's very difficult with this stuff to get a fine line, so you just have to keep persevering and playing with it. And they're very elusive, these fibres. They've got a mind of their own. Now we started to lose the vibrancy a little bit of the pupil, so I'm just flicking out the fibres. There we go. And we've moved over again, so that's better. Right. I'm going to go in with that light grey. Actually, maybe a little bit of a darker grey that I have behind me here. This one might be a bit too dark, but I can always go over it with a lighter one. Before I do, I'm just going to give these a quick stab. Okay. Now we're going to create a bit of shape to the eyelid itself. So I'm rolling these fibres in my fingers, and I'm going to go in just about here. If you've already rolled the fibres, it's easier to get a fine line. Now I want it to be on the black, not on the eyeball, as we go round. And you may have to go over this 2 or 3 times, because obviously I'm using such fine fibre. And I literally just want to take it up to that line. And twist another bit. And my hands. And I'm just going to go back in over the top. Because I probably could have gone in thicker at the beginning, but again, less is more, you know. If you don't get it right first time, excuse me, then it's easier to add than it is to take away. There we go. Now I am going to go in with the lighter grey, which did look quite white, but it isn't. It's light grey. And I just, again, I'm twisting it. If you twist it with a wet finger and thumb, it's easier to keep it in the position. And I'm going to go on the outside edge of that grey stripe that I've put in, and quite fine. I don't really want to go over the top of it. I just want to go on the outside edge of it. So it just gives a highlight to that grey, which will help it stand out a little bit more. And then you can go in and just straighten it up and make sure that it's in the right place. Because the other thing you don't want to lose is this black and the vibrancy of this black that's around the edge. And that can sometimes quite often be lost when you're doing greys like this. So you can always just get another piece of black, go back to the black, twist it around like you've just done with the other 2 bits, and then just go back on the inside of that with the added piece of black. And put another layer on. There you go. Let's cut that excess bit off. Now I'm going to go back in with the light grey, which is almost white, because I've got a double line on just one little part, and I'm trying to twist it so I don't get a knot, because knots never look good. So you just want the plain fibre. I have a double line here, so I'm going in the other side of that grey stripe, and I'm just going to cut it there. Not always easy to do or get the effect you want. It wasn't thick enough, so it's not given enough of effect. So I'm going to have to do that again. Again, get a bit that's not got a knot in it. There we go. And that's just given that double line. Just tuck your ends in underneath, because then it gives a good fixing point. Okay. I'm going to go back to those little bits that I felted over. These little triangles, and I know they were in relation to that spot and that spot. So that puts me roughly there.